All right, looks like we're probably live right now, but if you guys can hear me, let me know what's going on. I'd really appreciate that. Just gonna give it a couple more minutes. What are you saying?
Look at this girl's face.
What's going on? Let me know if you guys can hear me out there. Yes, they can hear me.
Baseball game. Look at that girl's face.
What a creepy face. All right, you know what? Let's get to it, guys. Let me know if you guys can hear us out there. Would really appreciate it. Sorry for the technical difficulties. We are now live. That's right. Back at it again. Guys, let me know if you guys can hear Dan and also Jennifer too as well. I do apologize. On this one, we definitely have to blame York. York runs the media department, and I don't know. I mean, we paid this guy, over 6 figures a year, and he can't keep things right. I don't understand why. So, if you guys have a complaint, send it on out to chakits.k at gmail.com.
Oh my gosh. Dude, that thing's gonna light up.
Yeah. Now, guys, can you guys actually hear us? And for off the record, man, we're just playing around with York. He's actually doing a good job. It was actually my fault, so I do apologize. There was a meeting that I had the other day with a client on my computer, so there was a couple things I had to change. So that's the reason why.
I don't see anything on the TV though.
The reason why, because I didn't put nothing on the TV.
Oh,
However, I'm going to go ahead and do that so that way you guys can see your face and all that stuff like that.
I like to be engaged.
Yeah.
And I like to see how I look.
Totally understandable. But however, if this is your first time tuning in to the LV Home Experts podcast, my name's Chakits Krulsawat, licensed real estate agent out here in Las Vegas, Nevada, with Simply Vegas, the host of the LV Home Expert podcast. We talk about real estate and financing with my co-host, Dan French, with Guarantee Rate, and that's him right there. And our special guest today, Jennifer. Now, you guys probably seen Jennifer before. She's been on the show multiple times. And we wanted to get a second opinion on what's going on with the Las Vegas housing market. And I do apologize again. But where were we? We were just chatting it up.
We're talking about Magic Mike and then what the... No, I'm just...
Maybe you want to know something? Maybe that was a good idea. It was meant to be, right?
Right.
But anyway, what's going on around the Las Vegas Valley? Real quick, kind of explain what's new.
Yep.
I mean, you go out all the time. I see your Instagram, which is kudos, by the way. You're doing a very good job on the Instagram.
Thank you.
Right? You're definitely building. And let me ask you this. Instagram, you're probably getting a lot of clients, right? Off topic real quick.
Actually, I would say I'm getting referrals from out-of-state agents.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Interesting.
Do you have a lot of good reviews?
I'm sure she does. I mean, she's all over Instagram.
Because I think that's kind of how people from real estate agents, that's the first thing they do is like, okay, we're just going to go to Zillow or find somebody that has good reviews.
Yeah.
And then they go to the Instagrams or the whatever, and they're like, oh, okay. So I don't know. That just seems like that would be the first starter, right?
I mean, I do have good Zillow reviews,
Yeah.
so hopefully that's where they're
probably
seeing
what it is.
right? Yeah.
I mean,
hopefully that's the case.
That's a good thing to have. It's a good problem to have,
All right, so I want to talk about the Las Vegas housing market. As of today, we currently sit at 9,752 properties currently on the market. And that also includes single-family residence, townhomes, right, and also condos, okay? What are you seeing that's taking place in today's market? Are you working mostly with buyers or sellers in today's market right now?
Right now I'm working more with buyers.
Is that kind of like your niche?
Yes.
Okay. On the buying side, are you mostly doing resale now or brand new homes? What are you doing?
For the last 2 months, it's more new builds.
New builds?
Yes.
And I thought it would be opposite. Now, I get what you're saying because new builds, they're not going to reduce it drastically. I think that when you look at new builds, it's because they can buy the rate down. That's why I think that most people are looking at that because they're going to throw that money at trying to buy the rate and entice with the incentives.
Like the 2-1 buy down.
Yeah, all
program.
that, right?
Yes.
Now, you just mentioned 2-1 buy down. Dan, you want to explain the 2-1 buy down? And also, how would this actually benefit somebody in today's market or buyers in today's market?
Yeah, I mean, they start off with the lower rate and then
So this is a loan program.
This is a loan program, but they start off with a lower rate, and then each year it goes up higher to eventually getting the rate that you would sign up for.
Yeah.
I think you still got to put in, is it cost worthy, and is it something, because you got to think, unless the builder's paying for it, that's fine. But I would say you're still paying for it. I'm not going to get into detail about that, but unless the builder's paying for it, you got to justify how many months is it going to take before I get that return? Like, because you got to think you're going to be at that rate, that 7%, close to 7% rate if you locked in today.
Yeah.
6%, 7% at some point. Right. And so I think it's more of an adjustment period for people. It's like you can go into this loan and it's good. I'm not saying it's a bad deal, especially when you have things going on. But I also think you have to look and see, like, what if you're the client out there buying down the rate and it costs you money, and then you're taking advantage of that 1 year, but then it goes up and then it goes up. That's great, but at the same time, you're still buying the rate down, and it's still going to be a cost to you, and eventually you're going to have a rate that you probably don't want. So that's a discussion you have to have with yourself or with your family.
Have you done a deal with a 2-1 buy down?
Yes, currently townhouse with D.R. Horton, they're actually paying for the buy down rate.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and they're covering partial for the closing costs.
It's actually pretty good, actually, if you think about it.
So
it's good,
at
but
4.5.
here's my discussion, though, is that it's good, but it's good like temporarily.
Now, yeah.
It's not good long term, and that's fine. If you're banking on rates coming down, which that might happen, then it's a good product because you're getting into it. You have it for
You're
2
just
years.
prolonging the situation, basically.
If rates don't come back to that 5%, where I think they're going to hover probably like that mid 5%, then I think then you're going to be put in a position for yourself.
Well, it's still a win-win situation because if rates are hovering above 7% and you're at 7%, you do the 2-1 buy down the first year, it's at 5%. Year number 2, it's at 6%. Then year number 3, it's locked in at 7%. You're still at that 7% interest rate. If it does go up, then you still got a better rate. Now, if the rates do drop, then you can always just refinance.
But it makes sense if you're not paying for it. Like, let me give you an
Well,
example.
you wouldn't be paying for it because you would
example.
ask the seller to pay for it.
So let's say you do a 2-1 buy down and
Yeah.
it costs you $10,000.
It wouldn't cost me $10,000.
No, let's say as a buyer, it costs you $10,000 to
It costs
do
the seller $10,000.
the seller. But let's just say it costs you money, and because the buyer can buy the rate down too. The
Yeah, but in today's market,
builder,
We're negotiating.
We're
for the seller to
negotiating,
pay-
right? But what I'm
pay
saying
for
is,
it.
let's say if you're out there and you're a client and you buy it down. Let's just give the hypothetical.
unfortunately, that wouldn't work in today's market because sellers do want to get rid of their property, and that's an incentive in order for them to get their home sold.
Exactly. So what I'm saying is, it only makes sense. You're still going to have that rate, but if you're the one buying the rate, and this is what I was trying to say, if you're the one that actually goes in and buys the rate, which you're saying it doesn't happen,
Yeah.
it does happen in some cases, but for the majority, it doesn't happen, then you're out that money because if you look to refi when the rates come down to that mid 5, that money you just put down and you only had it for 2 years, it might take you 7 before you start getting a return on it.
Yes, but here's the thing. That means you're working with the wrong agent, first of all. Because you
But
shouldn't be in that situation.
It's
where,
happened. I've heard it. I mean, I'm not saying it
Yeah.
happens a lot, but it's happened. I've heard people talk about it, and I mean, these things are out there. That's why these shows make it relevant to people and be aware.
No, for sure. The kicker is that we want to negotiate so that the seller is actually paying that to buy down
Yeah.
rate for the buyer.
So what else?
It makes a huge difference in the payment, and that's what it comes down to. If buyer's qualified and that's how much they're going to pay, and especially if they plan to rent, I mean, that buy down rate for the first 1 or 2 years until they
But
figure
I
out
think
what's
you
gonna
I think you also have to go into the mindset. Don't be so focused on what my monthly payment is now, right? Anticipate that it will be at that 7% or whatever that percentage is, and understand what that payment will be just in case if rates don't drop. You know what I'm saying?
That's what I'm saying. It sounds good now, right? Smoke and mirrors a little bit, right? It's like, look, here's your payment, and then you're good, and then you're good for another year. But then when you hit it, it's like I've seen people had their payment jump $400, $500, $600, right? And I think that's a big deal.
Yeah.
And I think that's what you're saying is you got to kind of mindset is, hey, if the seller's going to buy it down, no problem. Also, am I ready for that payment jump?
Now, the other thing that you have to watch out for, if you did do this 2-1 buy down, obviously you can, refinance the home, right, into a different loan. But if there's no equity, then what? because what happens if the market even drops even further?
As far as what, refinance and doing a rate and term?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you have to have equity to do a refinance.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So that's one of the risks that you guys need to understand here if you do those type of loans, because
unless it's a VA.
Let's say if it's at 400,000, now it drops to 300,000, you're not going to be able to refinance. You're stuck at that 7%. You see what I'm saying? Even though if the rates did drop. So there are pros and cons to everything.
Absolutely.
The problem is that you don't know where the market is going, if it's going to go up or if it's going to go down, right? So it is a short term, but I guess the question I have for you is, then who would it actually really benefit? Who's that person? You know what I'm saying?
The market?
No, I'm talking about that buyer. What kind of buyer would utilize this and it says, you know what, this actually works for us?
Payment shock. So I'll give you an example. I'm moving from California.
Yeah.
Coming here, let's say that right away I don't want to have that $600 payment. I want to get adjusted here. Maybe I have a spouse that needs to go to work, and it's going to help out with that dual income. That's the type of person that really would benefit it. The other part of it is it's just a tactic for sales, because you're really just trying to get people in the door, put a Band-Aid on it right up front, right? We're going to fix this issue for a little bit, get you entrenched into the situation, and then you're in that payment, right?
Yeah.
So I think there's pros and cons, like you said, and there's people out there for it. For the masses, if the seller's doing it, probably okay, because then you could just get the rate when it comes down. I still feel we're going to 9 based upon, what I hear as far as data. But, I think that we'll come back down to that mid 5%.
Well, last week you were spitting out 10%. Now you're going back down to 9?
No, I think it's going to go to 11. No, I do think it's going to go to 9. Look, I think what's going to happen is the Fed is going to continue to raise rates.
Well, they have to.
They have to.
Jerome Powell already came out. We went up 75 basis points. So now today we're sitting at 3.2%, 2.5%. They're speculating by the end of the year, 4.2%.
I think it'll hit 9 probably first quarter. Or close to it, maybe going into the second quarter.
But you're talking about the interest rates for a home.
For a home.
Okay. I'm talking about the Fed's fund rate.
Right.
Okay. But obviously that's going to impact the housing market.
That's a full point where we're at now.
Now, one thing that I do want to share with you guys, right, that you guys can also focus on is that because a lot of people bought when interest rates were low, right? There are some people out there that actually want to sell their home. And this is a quick tip, and this is the reason why you guys are going to watch this show. There are some loans out there are actually assumable. What that means is that there's not a due on sales clause on that deed of trust, right? So if you can find somebody that is actually interested in their home selling at fair market value, but they actually bought the home at a 3.25%, you can literally go to their bank and say, look, I'm fully approved. Let me get approved with you guys. Let me assume the loan. And you take that on over. See, look, this is the reason why you guys are going to watch the show, because I'm sharing the techniques and strategies with you. So there's more that I can share with you. However, check out our second channel too as well, because I'm going to break it down on how to find the best rates as possible in today's market when rates are very high. So stay tuned to that on our second channel, Chakits 2.0. Now, let's talk about... what are the challenges that are you having with some of the buyers in today's market? Like, are they coming in and say, hey, I want a $100,000 price reduction? Like, are you running across that?
No.
No, not at all? 50, 40?
No.
Nothing.
Mainly interest rate. I think, like you mentioned, they're
Okay.
kind of pulling back a little because they're not sure if it's the right time. They want to buy, but they're trying to plan it, and everyone always wants to say, like, I got to buy at the right time. And the word right time, when is
There's
it
never
really
a
the
right time.
right? Exactly.
One thing that I've learned when I got into this market, I came in on a down cycle. There were over 18,000 homes on the market. And nobody bought a home because everybody was scared. So the question is, how do you know when is the right time, right?
Well, I think there's a right time when you have residual income left over after all your bills are paid and you have that excess money that you can go spend and put it into something. I think with where we're at, it's a hard position because people have all these costs and things that's gone up. Supply chain, right, with a lot of the things that people had at their fingertips is now higher. You go get your nails done, right? you go get a haircut. All these things are higher, right? It just seems like a lot of these things are going up. I don't know if it's
Charlene is charging me more money.
Yeah, I'm just saying they're all going up, man. And the thing is like, okay, so you can say it's an excuse, whatever, but it doesn't matter. The reality is every American out there is spending more for the things they used to have, all the necessities, all the commodities that they spent for. So now you factor that in with this interest rate, and now it's like, okay, is it the right time? If you took all that away, and let's say rates went up to 7-8%, but everything stayed the same, I think we'd still have a pretty decent market. I think it's this combined effort of you have inflation higher, you have gas higher, you have people really struggling to try to navigate through, I have to pay all these bills that are now, let's say, $500 to $700 more a month. Insurance, right? All these things. We know the energy went up. So now this is a bigger decision now to buy a house than it was, let's say, a year or two ago.
So I guess the question, as a consumer, what is that comfort level as far as, a lot of people always tend to cap themselves, right? Mm-hmm. They can be qualified for $800,000. What I notice is when you're qualified for $800,000, people spend up to $800,000. If you're qualified for $100,000, you're maxing that out. What is that good threshold? Would you say percentage-wise, as far as debt to income ratio, 35%, 40%? To be on the conservative side, to say, this makes sense to actually buy a home. Because for me, for my home, my debt to income ratio is like less than like 10%, right? And fortunately, I bought at the right time. I make decent amount of money, but however, I'm not going out there buying a $4 million home. You see what I'm saying? And I'm not tapping myself out. But what I'm starting to see is a lot of consumers in today's market, no matter if it's credit card debt, whatever it is, they always max themselves out. They always bite more than they can chew. Then what happens is you end up living paycheck to paycheck, right? And that puts you in a vulnerable position. So my question to you, or I'm asking you personally, if you were going to go out and buy a home today, right? What would that percentage be, your debt to income ratio, to actually buy a home? Would you say 35%, 40%?
Go ahead. I'll let you answer.
Of your income? 35%?
So the national average has gone up. As far as, you got to think, there's two ways to look at this. You have your total debt.
Yeah.
That's included the mortgage, and then you just have your mortgage.
Yeah.
And if I said, well, let me take all this out, today's world, we see the highest percentage of just people paying mortgages. It's at like 38%.
Which is so high.
That means 38% of that income is going just to the mortgage. That's not including everything else. So you have to think, if it's me, I want my all-in total debt to be no more than 40%. That's just me, to be safe, right? You got to think.
And when you say total debt, we're talking about expenses with everything
car
else.
Loans, credit cards, student loans, anything that you have, right? You got to think your mortgage payment on average is already at 40%. So that's the problem. The problem is that if you're already started at 40 and you have to pay all these other bills, dude, it's going over 50 maybe, or close to 50. That's a big decision. Now it's like, okay, something happens, unless I got
you're stuck. You're not limbo. You can't pivot. You can't profit. You know what I mean? You can't move quickly.
Your mortgage broke.
Yeah, basically. So, I mean, if you're first getting started, you probably don't want to just jump into something very huge like that, right? Because we know here in Las Vegas, the average person moves every 7 years. They always reposition, get a bigger home, take the equity.
Yep.
But you always want to be in a position where you can actually save money and stack money, right, at the end of the day.
Yep.
And try to get that house hack if you guys can do that house hack. But that's a whole nother subject. What else is going on in today's housing market that you guys are seeing from the financing side or from the buying side that you guys can share?
Well, I mean, I see that people coming from California, has that stopped for you? Are you still dealing with out-of-state buyers, or is it like, where do they come from mostly?
Right now, I mean,
Hawaii?
Fortunately, yeah, actually there are people from Hawaii moving.
Right.
So I do have actually, most of my buyers are investors, so they are still purchasing homes here in Las Vegas.
I see that those buyers are coming here. They're selling houses, paying off everything, repositioning, like Chakits always says, and pivoting to Nevada or Las Vegas, putting down a large amount. They're not going to put everything into this house, but they'll carry a loan of like $150 because at like 150, 200,000, that's not a huge payment at 7%.
Exactly.
That's what I'm seeing if you need a mortgage. Other than that, it's all cash.
It is.
You actually make a good point. Now I want to take a quick commercial break.
Does your house look like and have you been considering remodeling your home for some time now? Well, if you love real estate like I do and appreciate the attention to detail in the craftsmanship required to build a remodel or a gorgeous home, then I got the perfect company for you. Guys, I highly recommend Design Zone Remodeling. They are a stellar company that will turn your outdated home into your own personal sanctuary. They specialize in bathroom remodels, kitchen remodels, and full house remodels. Design Zone Remodeling has a reputation for excellent workmanship, competitive fees, and being able to offer a wide range of services and deliver the outstanding results to their clients. I use Design Zone Remodeling on my personal properties. Give Design Zone Remodeling a call today at 725-223-0871 or visit their website at designzoneremodeling.com to request a free consultation today.
All right, guys, welcome back to the LV Home Experts podcast. If you guys are just tuning in, my name is Chakits Krulsawat with Simply Vegas, licensed real estate agent out here in Las Vegas, Nevada. And today we are talking about the Las Vegas housing market and what's going on. If you guys haven't had a chance to subscribe to the channel, go ahead and click that subscribe button. Today we got our special guest, Jennifer. She is an agent out here in Las Vegas, Nevada. She deals with a lot of buyers. Real quick, guys, we do have the full market package here for the market report for the month of August. If you guys actually want this report, just send out an email out to York requesting the report. This breaks down short sales, REOs. I mean, this breaks everything down, what's going on with the Las Vegas housing market. There's a lot of great information. You're going to reach on out to chakits.k@gmail.com. Just say, hey, York, I want the report, and he will get your contact information, and we will send you out the report. Now, we talked about the Las Vegas housing market. We currently have roughly about 9,700 homes. I want to get into single-family residents. Single-family residents, as of today, we have a total of 7,916 homes. Current closings, $450,000. The median price point for a home at $243 a square foot. Average days on the market has creeped up to 29 days, which is pretty crazy because I'm having a lot of sellers in today's market. All the listings I have, how come you haven't sold my home yet? Well, the average days on the days on the market is 29 days. I mean, you got to give it 29 days. It does take some time to sell a home. I understand that if you are a seller in today's market, it can get a little bit frustrating. Now, what can you get for $450,000? Roughly about 1,900 square feet, 3 bedrooms, 2.5 bathrooms. So what do you guys think about average days on the market? Keeps climbing. It's getting higher and higher.
So what is it right now?
29 days. It used to be within like 4 or 5 days. It's crazy.
So it's still like you see that prices are stabilized. I mean, what are we at, 450 still?
Yeah, I think we stabilized already because remember, from an all-time high from 485 down to 450, that's about 5 point something percent of a decrease. However, we literally dropped down to 240, but now we are at 250, and it's kind of been plateaued at the 450. But if you go on the MLS, homes that are under like the 300 range, right? There's tons of them, believe it or not. They may not be the best homes, but there's a lot, because I remember 6 months ago when I was looking for like investment properties, you can go like 200, 300. There just was nothing out there.
Nothing would pop up on the map.
But also, one of the challenges, it's the interest rate, but then also another layer on top of the challenge here is that buyers are now getting more picky, which is you should if you're spending a $300,000 for a home, which is totally understandable. What sucks for me, I got to drive around so many damn times, which is I don't like to do. So hurry up and pick a home.
Yeah.
Gas is not cheap.
It's not cheap.
It's like by the time you drive back and forth and you get your commission back, you just pay for your gas.
It's like part of the whole deal now.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it is what it is. Thank God we can write that stuff off. So
or you can just put it into like the broker's fee. You just put it in. This is a $300 broker's transaction fee for gas. No, but what I was going to say is that if you look at the market and it's stabilized, it does say that people are still buying. There are definitely way more homes on the market. But as far as people thinking, if we have 29 days on the market and we're this far in, we're what, 3 months in that we saw a huge difference, right, since rates went up. I'm not saying it doesn't have room to come down, but it is definitely slowing down. And I feel like we're not at the bottom, but we're starting to see where there's a stabilization point. And at 30 days, 29, 30 days, that's a normal market. Matter of fact, anything above 30 to 45 days, that's actually considered a healthy market, right? I mean, so I think still to be under 30 at this point, and we have rates that are crazy high and prices of homes still pretty high, says people are still buying. They're not buying at the ways they were before. Definitely not that pace, but they're still buying.
Now, what's kind of fascinating, there's a lot of FHA buyers now coming back out into the marketplace where they can actually get a home.
It's their time to shine.
Yeah, because I remember 6 months ago, if you were an FHA buyer, nobody was looking at you. But now they're looking at you. It's crazy.
And I've brought this up. I mean, there's a certain type of buyer that's in the market. It's first-time home buyers that are naive to rate, or not naive to it. They understand it's higher, but they don't know the difference. They just want to get into something, and it's usually the first-time buyer, right? Or it's investors that's just coming in buying cash and not worried about the rate. So those buyers that were on the sidelines, and Chakits brought it up, they're on the sidelines. They come back in, and now they're in the market to buy because they don't have the competition.
Jennifer, your company is still with Real. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so the reason why I'm saying that is because Brian had asked me, your guest, what is her name, Jennifer, and the name of her company is Real. So if you guys are actually interested in purchasing a home with her, I will have her full contact information in the link in the description below. I know I'm not as pretty as her, but however, pick me instead, okay? Pick me.
That's a hard choice, man.
I know.
You got a gold necklace.
Yeah.
You got a gold watch. You know what I mean? But then you got her. It's like, do I pick the gold or do I pick her?
It's like they always go for the girls. I don't know why. But it is what it is. The good news is that there's enough money to go around, right? Yeah. And at the end of the day, you want to work with people that you connect with. Obviously, I can't connect with everybody, right? And Jennifer, you can't connect with everybody. However, like I said, if you guys are interested in purchasing a home, feel free to reach on out to her. It looks like somebody says, what is your thoughts about Richmond American Homes?
Richmond American Homes?
Yeah.
Oh, I love them. I think the quality is great. They're actually, so some builders I would say is loosening up as well. Like they're offering more incentives, and so they are becoming more negotiable as well in terms of what you can ask them to pay for.
My favorite model is a single story with the Page model. Oh man, that thing is sick.
The Page is nice.
Yes. However, I noticed there's a builder that I just went into contract this week. The only incentives that they were literally getting was only like $10,000, but I couldn't even like negotiate the lot premiums. But it was also a brand new track, and we were the first person to buy on that lot, which is totally understandable. But some locations you can like really bury the hell out of these builders, man. It's crazy. Also, another thing I noticed with builders, a lot of these guys are just slapping things together, right? And there's so much complaints after complaints. And I literally just had one guy reach on out to me that he wanted to fire his agent and he wanted to hire me, right, to go through the process because he's having trouble with the builders. Unfortunately, there's nothing that I could actually do for him at that point.
Agreeing cause?
Yeah, pretty much. It's like, and that has happened to me before in a transaction that you did. I had a guy that another agent had sued me, and I had to give up some of my commission. It is what it is. But at the end of the day, that agent couldn't get that deal done, right? And this is where I was talking about, you have to be very creative. So that deal fell apart. Dan said, hey, you might want to talk to Chakits. Dan told me the whole situation about the financing side. I got with the listing agent. I structured the deal. I was able to put the deal together, close on the deal. A couple months later, I get a notice from an attorney where I'm actually getting sued. And at the end of the day, he was the procuring cause of the transaction, even though that they severed both ways. At the end of the day, I settled, and he was entitled to a commission. And I didn't do nothing wrong. I mean, I did everything that was right. You know what I mean? However, just that word alone, the procuring cause. And, I pretty much work for free, but, it's a learning lesson. You know what I mean? But this is just a prime example. an agent versus or an agent that's just getting started or new or not as creative, right? And the only way that you can be creative in today's market or even just in real estate, especially with your negotiating skills, you have to be in the business for some time, right? It's anything that you do, right? And obviously I'm trying to sell you guys right now. Is it working?
No, I mean, listen, I'll tell you one thing. But
I'm definitely absorbing what you're saying, but I like the word that you use when it comes to creative. I think the market right now is like we're in a very interesting time period where a few months ago, like you said, over lists, waiving appraisals, and now the tides have turned. And so as agents, we have to be very creative so that we can advocate for our clients, because we were talking about builders, they're playing games as well. I do see that they're trying to want us more, our business, telling us they're increasing co-op, giving these things for buyers. But at the same time, they're asking for things that maybe as buyers, if you didn't have an agent, that you wouldn't have to necessarily disclose. Like some of the pre-approvals, they are asking specifics now when, because they want you to actually go with their lender.
Look, I'm just messing up all day today. But whoa, we got super chat. Chris says this. I'm gonna let you answer this, Dan, because this is totally out of my sector here. Should I go all in with the Tesla stocks on margins or buy a house next week? Wow, here's the thing. Especially if you're going on margin, I would never play the margin game, especially in today's market. That's kind of sketchy. However, I know real estate, right? So I think I'm going to gamble for real estate. But as far as buying a home next week, I think the numbers don't make sense, depending on the type of investor you are. Now, Dan?
I would agree. I mean, exactly what you said.
So
I think
the question
buying a
is,
house was traditionally...
borrow money
right.
to get stocks,
right,
or gamble and buy a house next week. What would you do?
Neither.
I
don't think
Jennifer, what would you do? If you had $1 million right now and you wanted to leverage out that $1 million to borrow $10 million for margin.
Yeah, go ahead.
What would you do? Would you margin, or would you buy a house next week and gamble?
I'd buy a house. But let me ask, are they saying they're buying a house and are they keeping the house or how?
No. So his question is, should he margin, which means he's going to borrow money from the bank to put into the stock market, but he'll owe debt, right? Or should he just gamble and just buy a home next week? So Chris is kind of being funny about it,
right?
Because obviously the market is a bear market. Mm-hmm. Also, the stock market is a bear market. It's like, what do you do? It's like every asset class right now, you can't really, there's really nowhere to put your money. For me, for a safe haven would actually be precious metals, but that's a whole different topic. But anyway, let's move on.
It really comes down to, in the past, stocks have always been the more gambling, riskier asset. Or I wouldn't say it's an asset, just a riskier position.
It's more volatile.
It's very much more volatile. Tesla, though, pretty stable. You saw that Musk just came out and bought Twitter. Did you see the stock on Twitter? It seemed like anything that guy has his name attached, it goes crazy. So I think for the interim, if I had to make a choice, because there's a gun, where I'm saying, hey, you got to choose something. Yeah, I would probably do the stock. If we were in a market 2 years ago, I would definitely do the house.
I wouldn't do margin calls, but however, what I like about stocks, I'm not in the stocks game, but I'm just saying this is what I like about it. If you have to liquidate, you can liquidate like that. When it comes to investing in homes or even buying a home, you're not going to be able to liquidate like that, right?
It's much more long term.
It's not only long term. You can't get that liquidity quick. You can't pivot quickly. So you must, if you are an investor, you must be buying, right, at rock bottom prices, or you need to know exactly what you're doing. You have to be educated, especially when you get into the investment game, because you can make some bad moves. Trust me, I literally bought a property, thought I was going to make $40,000. This thing tanks. I'm rehabbing a property just to break even.
And now I'm buying it off of him and making $20,000. No, I'm just
happy endings.
So the good news is that, and this is for 2 properties. I'm not making anything. I literally just rehabbing properties and just creating content at this point, because obviously it had tanked. But the good news is I didn't lose any money. But this is just part of the game. It is what it is.
It's a risk.
Yeah.
I mean, but you know what? You got opportunities, you got options. So, I mean, it's a risk that didn't pay out, but you can take it and flip it and do something else, So,
Jennifer, let me ask you this. We talked earlier that a lot of your clients are investors that you are working with, and they are buying multiple properties. For me, right, as far as investment properties, things are not making sense as far as the return on my money, especially when inflation is at 8.3%. You can't really find anything out there at above, 8.3%. And that's not even the true inflation number. Not only that, with cost of goods and services that go up, I mean, you're really not making that much money. The investors that you are currently working with, right, that are buying multiple homes, right, are they buying based upon speculation or like what is their strategy?
So the investor is actually buying all cash. So the interest rate is actually not a concern for them, fortunately. He's buying it and he's actually renting it out.
Okay. So basically he's parking his money.
He's exactly what he's doing. He's parking his money.
So, and you brought up a good point, because we always speculate payment and rate.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that the majority of people don't get a mortgage, because they do. But there's people out there that can buy a house cash. And you really have to put in, perspective or just thought, like, is there really a return in this market at any level, right? For any house, is there any return that you can see out there that people can say, well, I mean, look, because you get people that call you like, hey, I want to buy your house and flip it. But I mean, is there really that much of a return in this type of market when we're declining?
I've seen a lot of flippers are like kind of pulling back or have even closed shop just because the holding cost is unpredictable.
Yeah, like one of my properties, I was actually gonna rehab it. Right, it's downtown, but I didn't rehab it. I took a hit on it, but I made a lot of money off this deal, and I gave it to another investment company. And, they're sitting probably on like 30-something homes right now. But they bought it for me such a good deal. They have that carrying cost, and they're probably making about a 12% now versus that, that 25% that they used to make. And I have a buddy, which is too as well. It seems like they just closed up shop and they're just repositioning because I looked at these guys' portfolios, especially at these rehabs that are like at $1 million. The average days on the market, right, is sitting on there for so long. And just imagine a carrying cost, especially when you have a second on it. And typically these seconds are second investors that are coming in and putting down, $200,000 on these deals. And these carrying costs that you have for these investors, you're literally just hemorrhaging money. And I'm seeing like price reduction after price reduction. And if you get into that luxury game, what I notice is, number one, you got to do quality work on these high-end rehabs. Like the quality has to be there, right? You also have to buy like in certain neighborhoods that are going to retain its value, or a consumer can see the value in this home. And I would say like these are like more like unicorn properties, a property that has a pool with some nice view fencing on a golf course, gated community,
right.
Those type of properties. So it's a very hard niche to get into, but I do see like a group of my friends that, they got over $40 million worth of, luxury high-end flips, and they're flipping like 16 homes at a time, and they have a full crew, which is a big responsibility. But things are still selling, but it's not moving as fast. So for me, that's not my strategy. That's not my niche. I make the slow money, but I collect the chips, right? Then I go for the gusto.
I think too, that's completely different, like a mom and pop psychologically. Right? Yeah. They're thinking, well, if I buy an investment property, cash or whatever, I might have only 1, 2, maybe 3, 4 properties, whatever it is. You're not buying it in bulk or trying to really make that margin. They're also in that long-term position. So I think it's again, we always say case by case, but I think if you're somebody out there that's just looking to buy an investment, that might make sense in this market too. Prices are coming down if you're going to hold on to it.
Yes.
Well, guys, that time has come. Unfortunately, I messed up the show, and I do apologize. And I definitely want to have Jennifer back on the show, because that is unfair to her. She took her time to come on out here, and we cut her short, right? So what's the best way to get a hold of you? If somebody wants to buy a home from you, how do we get a hold of you? That's the main thing.
I'm on Instagram pretty much all day. So if you look me up, search View Vegas.
View Vegas. That's right, View Vegas. Guys, I really do appreciate each and every one of you guys. I do appreciate you guys tuning in. Also, Jennifer, thank you so much for this champagne bottle. This is like balling status. So if you guys want to buy a home from her, I'll have a link in the description below, or check her out on Instagram. She's got a lot of followers, a lot of great content. Search Vegas, is that correct? Say that again, I'm sorry.
Search View Vegas.
Search View Vegas. All right, guys, thank you so much. If you guys haven't had a chance to subscribe to this channel, go ahead and click that subscribe button. Also, check out our second channel, Chakits 2.0. Everything lifestyle of Las Vegas, real estate, and more.